love commandments. Hello everyone, it's Father Daniel Suh, and you are watching at Nunc Cepi, Now I Begin. And today we reflect on the sixth Sunday of Easter on the Gospel passage. And if you notice in the beginning and at the end of the Gospel passage, Jesus connects love with his commandment. He says, "If you love me, you will keep my commandments." So two questions come to mind. First, what is love? And second, how does keeping Jesus' commandment equate to love? So let's begin with the first question. So what is love? Well, St. Thomas Aquinas would say, the first thing that a lover wills is for the loved to exist and live. The I, who loves above all, wants the existence of the you. So we can look at the relationship between a mother and her child. So René Spitz is an Austrian-American psychoanalyst, and he observed a really famous research of two groups of children. One group had children born and raised by their mothers, but in very uncomfortable conditions in prison. And the other group was born by their mothers, but raised without their mothers in a nursing home. They were raised by professional nurses in a very comfortable environment that provided everything. The children who were raised by their mothers in the prisons, although they had the unfortunate living conditions, were much better off when it came to marasmus, also known as severe undernourishment, or even their fatality. And so the children who lived without their mothers, while they were given all those physical essentials, they were lacking that emotional need that they had. And so with that emotional dependency that they were craving, the children were much more susceptible to death. And so in this experiment, we realize how important it is to be loved. So as Joseph Pieper, the philosopher, puts it, it's like the children in the nursing homes had the milk without the honey, meaning they had all the essentials to living, but they lacked the sweetness of life, that which gives them true happiness. There is a true want to be loved that in this day and age has undergone a certain scrutiny. I mean, the reality is we should all naturally want to be loved. But even under the scheming quote-unquote context of humility, this can be misunderstood, because with a certain want to be loved, if you think of it in its extremes, can come a certain emotional dependency, which in trueness is a certain childishness, a certain immaturity. But on the other hand, we can realize that it's actually impossible to live without the desire of being loved. You're not human if you don't care to be loved. It's expected, it's just for someone to be loved. The reality is, only God's capable of loving without being loved in return. We see it in Jesus Christ on his way to Mount Calvary. In our relationship with God, it's appropriate for us to be loved more than us loving, because God loves us infinitely more than we could possibly love him back. There is a certain understanding of a desire to please that people can say is unhealthy. In high school or junior high school, they might say, "Oh, the kid with the desire to please, he's such a brown noser. That kid just has this desire to be the best." But the kid just wants to be loved. He just wants to be approved. So in biblical Greek, there is this term, eudokein. And while it means the desire to be loved, it also expresses the fundamental aspects of our existence. We also know that there is the term gloria, glory, right? And to be completely frank, deep down, everyone wants glory. Everyone wants that public appreciation, that public approval, to be liked by others. And that's something that is naturally inherited in every human person. And the reality is, this desire is not actually something wrong. It's not something disordered. Because in truth, this desire for glory is actually pointing to something much deeper. The desire to be loved can also be synonymous to a desire to please. And when we want to please, we want to please not first and foremost the mass public. Well, we will if it's a certain vainglory. But in glory in its purest sense, our desire to please is to the first lover, to God Himself. Our desire of giving our very best in life is to please the Father, Abba. In that reality, we enter the same selfless self-giving that Jesus Christ gives to us, because that is the same self-sacrifice which pleases God. And that brings us back to our second and final point. How does following God's commandments equate to loving Him? So if you actually read past today's gospel and move on to John chapter 15, in verse 13, he lays it all down. He drops the mic. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. There is no greater love than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. We are friends of Christ, and He laid down His life for us. And by His very commandment, He calls us to do the same, and that is true love. So we give our very best to glorify God with a desire to please, knowing that this is the same desire to be loved. Because by glorifying God, we are doing our part to bring other people into His love, and to then help them and help ourselves to see the grandeur of this love. And then God the Father will receive us as His dearly beloved children, as His dear friends. My friends, till next time, now we begin.